Alright, stream should be starting up right about now, guys. What's going on? Hope you guys are all having a good Sunday so far. Excited to talk about some NFL football. We got Week 7 main slate. We do have some injuries to go over. Obviously, there's going to be some chalky plays. We'll go over that. Talk about cash plays, talk about GPP plays.
Stream should be starting up right about now, guys.
Hold on.
What's going on? Hope you guys are all having a...
Alright, that's what I get for having YouTube open in another window. Alright, sorry about that. They'll probably echo for a second. But I won first in NFL, $3,300 NFL ticket last night in Banco. On baseball and accident, thinking it was a $5 single entry normal GPP. Hey, you'll take it, right? What are your thoughts on this lineup for $3,300 entry? Let's see. Rodgers, Bernard, Jamal Williams, Adams, Galladay, Traquan Smith, Juju Smith, Kamara Flex. Yeah, I like that. What's up, DK? So excited for the slate. Yeah. Sorry about the echo there for a sec, guys. I didn't realize I had YouTube open in another window. So, all right. Back to what I was getting at here for the main slate. So, there's going to be some chalky plays, and we'll talk about that. I'll talk about cash GPP plays. If you guys are new to the channel, we'll go over. First, we'll take a look at the Vegas numbers. Not a whole lot has changed here. Then I'll talk about position by position breakdown, kind of talk cash GPP plays, and then we'll get to questions at the end. So. Let's start with, let's go over the Vegas numbers first and kind of take a look at these games. So we have Bills, Jets, 46 over under. The Bills are currently 10-point favorites. Not a game I have a whole lot of interest in, to be honest. I'm not super confident the Jets can score enough to make it, so the Bills have to really air it out. So that's my worry there with this game. We have Panthers, Saints, the 50.5 over under. The Saints are 7-point favorites. Big news for the Saints, obviously, is no Michael Thomas, no Emmanuel Sanders. So, by default, we kind of have Traquan Smith, the de facto number 1 receiver. Callaway, Deontay Harris, probably the number 2, number 3. So, we'll talk about that more in a bit. But we do have two really good value plays at running back. I think are going to eat up a lot of the ownership. Browns, Bengals, the 50.5 over under. The Browns are 3.5-point favorites. One of those running backs being Giovanni Bernard with no Joe Mixon. I think he looks like one of the better value plays of the day for sure. Dallas and Washington. It's a 44.5 over under. Washington's 1-point favorites. It kind of seems like Washington is going to be the chalk defense here for this week. Again, defense is such a high variance position that if you want to get away from that Washington defense, I'm fine. I don't think I get why people are going there, right? That they're cheap, and Dallas offensive line is really banged up. So maybe for a cash game setting, Washington's probably the defense you go with, but don't necessarily think they're a must-play, obviously, because, again, defense, super high variance position. Lions and Falcons here, it's a 55 over under. The Falcons are 1-point favorites. I think this game has potential for shootout for sure. There's a couple of those ones. Another one being Green Bay and Houston, 56 over under. Packers are 3-point favorites, two high-powered offenses, two not-so-good defenses, so both Falcons, Lions, and Packers, Texans look to be games you can definitely stack for GPPs. We have Steelers, Titans at 51.5 over under. The Titans are 1-point favorites. Buccaneers, Raiders, this is the new addition to the main slate. It's a 51.5 over under. The Tampa Bay Bucks are 4-point favorites. We have Jags, Chargers, a game I think there's going to be some popular plays here on the Chargers side with Keenan Allen, with Hunter Henry. I think both look good against a bad Jacksonville defense. 49 over under there. Chiefs, Broncos is a 44 over under. This one has been dropping because of the weather. It's going to be snowing pretty bad there, so I guess I don't hate going with the Chiefs defense if you want to go that route, or even I guess Denver and hope the weather is that bad. So the Mahomes offense is not as good as they usually are. So that one projected to be a little bit on the uglier side. 49ers, Patriots is a 45 over under. Patriots are 3-point favorites. Yeah, it's just this is a game I want very little exposure to. I know there's some injuries, on the 49ers side with Mostert, but it's just two teams play slow. They're run-first teams, and not super excited about it. And then finally, we have the late-night hammer, which is actually included here on the main slate. I'm really, really excited about because the Seattle-Arizona game was originally for the 4:30 slot and got moved to the Sunday night game because of Raiders and Bucks potential delay, but it looks like that's going to go on. And it's nice to have the Sunday night game on the main slate. You can get a little sweat. You can get again your late night hammer here. You guys know I really like Kyler Murray, so that's probably where I'm going. It's gonna be nice to watch that and the late night game. All right, let's talk about quarterback here. again, I'll go cash plays, GPP plays, and then questions at the end. So I'll go position by position here. Start at the top. What's going on, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. Oh, let me actually, give me 1 second. Let me tweet out the stream, just so people know that I'm live. So give me 1 second here. All right. So, yeah, we'll start with quarterback. And at the top, Russell Wilson is definitely in play here. There's enough value on this slate. We have Gio, we have Jamal Williams at running back. You even have Justin Jackson. There's some cheap wide receivers too that are in play that I think it does make sense to spend up a running back or spend up at quarterback if that's the route you want to go. Now there are a couple cheap quarterback plays which I think you can go to in cash, but all these guys at the top, or at least the guys I'll talk about, are I think in play in both formats because there is so much value. So I think you can go to Russ Wilson if you want to in cash in both formats here. Josh Allen's a guy I'm going to avoid. I'm not super confident in this Bills offense going up against the Jets just because I'm just not confident in the Jets, right? I'm not confident in the Jets scoring enough points where the Bills really have to put the foot on the gas pedal. And we have no Jameson Crowder as well for the Jets, so it looks kind of ugly there. That's the reason I'm avoiding the Bills. Like, I know Diggs' price is decent. Josh Allen, I'm not doing it on this slate. Mahomes, I'm also going to avoid it just because of the weather now. I know the price looks pretty okay there at 7-4. If you want to go that route in GPPs, that's fine. Pair him with either Hill or Kelsey, but cash games, I wouldn't do it. Kyler Murray is a guy I like in both formats. He's the quarterback that I'm personally going with if you want to follow suit. He is going to be one of the more popular quarterback plays today, but just love his floor due to his rushing ability, and this game definitely has makings for a shootout. Kyler's been running it a lot more this year, which really has raised his floor. He's had a lot of touchdowns on the ground. What is it? 1, 4, 6 touchdowns on the ground through 6 games. That is probably not going to keep up, but I think you got to like his upside and his floor in this match against Seattle, who cannot stop anyone. So Kyler's definitely one of the better quarterback plays in my opinion. He's the guy I'm going with if you want to follow suit, and you don't have to because there's a lot of quarterback plays that I do like. Like below him, you have Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson in the same game, Green Bay and Houston. This Green Bay offense is going to bounce back. Don't be worried about the last game for Rodgers. We have no Aaron Jones, which that news came out recently, which is really, really big for obviously a guy like Jamal Williams for value. And also maybe the rely on the pass game a little bit more. Davante Adams is going to be pretty popular as a spend up. So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, I think you can go to him in cash if you want to. I don't think he's going to be super popular in cash games, but again, there's enough value, and it's a great matchup here. So I am okay if you want to go with him. I think he's played in both formats. Same thing with Deshaun Watson on the other side. The good thing with him is his Houston defense is literally that bad where he's always playing from behind, always. And you kind of want that for your quarterback, so they just have to air it out. He's at 23, 29, 35 fantasy points in Green Bay. I'm not super worried about them defensively, so Watson's definitely in play, in my opinion, in both formats. Matt Ryan, I probably wouldn't pull the trigger on him in cash just because, I don't know, he is a guy that's a little bit more up and down, but always in play for GPPs. We have Ridley, we have Julio at fair prices. Both will be somewhat popular today just because there's so much value at running back that the chalk build is probably go Kamara, both the value running backs, and then spend up a wide receiver. And I'll talk about cash games. I'm not playing cash today, but I can kind of tell you guys what I would do if I was playing cash games. Probably would be Kamara, probably would be Jamal Williams, probably would be Gio, and then get to the spend up wide receiver. So, yeah, Matt Ryan is always in play there for GPPs, like pairing him with either of his receivers. Brady's not a guy I'm going to get to at 6-6. I'm not going to get to Big Ben either. I know it's a decent matchup, but not overly excited about the price there. Stafford is fringe playable here. I don't think I'll go there in cash for the price. He is suited for GPPs because of the matchup here against Atlanta. And the last game, you got a bit unlucky if you want Stafford. Again, they got off to a big lead and just kind of ran the ball in the second half. This is a game they're projected to be playing from behind. I mean, they're not huge dogs, but I think this is a game where maybe the Lions offense breaks out here. We do have news that DeAndre Swift is going to get an expanded role, so you can look to him. I think it's more suited for GPP still because the Lions do have 2 other running backs, but Galladay is at a price range where I don't think a lot of people get to Galladay, and it's not like he's been like amazing. So he's not had like a ton of targets, but I think this is the potential breakout game for either Galladay or Marvin Jones, who has really struggled. I like both the Detroit receivers here in the spot against Atlanta. Herbert at 6'4" is fine. Again, Jacksonville has been a team that has really struggled to defend the pass. Herbert's been 20 fantasy points basically in the last 4 games. He's been playing well too. And we have a cheap Keenan Allen who's going to be popular. We have a pretty nice price in Hunter Henry, I think, will be popular. So if you want to go that full-on Charger stack, I think that's a viable route, with Herbert, Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry. But either way, I think Herbert is playable in both formats here. And San Francisco, New England's a game I'm going to stay away from. Tannehill going up against Pittsburgh's a pass. Drew Brees, without his 2 targets, I'm probably not going to do it. I know Carolina actually has been better defensively the last few games at least, so I'm probably not going to go to Brees. No thank you on Dalton or Minshew or Bridgewater. The guy that I would consider if you're going to punt quarterback is Joe Burrow. He's got a bit unlucky here. The last couple games with no touchdowns. The last game he threw for over 300 yards had no touchdowns. I think the touchdown variance goes in his favor this game. Cleveland's a team that has struggled to defend the pass, and we have 3 Cincinnati receivers that are at very playable price points, right? So I think Burrow, if you're going to spend down a quarterback in cash, Burrow's the guy for me. Now, again, I'm not doing that. I'm going Kyler Murray, and I'm only playing GPPs. But if I was going to spend down a quarterback, Joe Burrow would be the guy for me. Basically 20 fantasy points the last 3 games and has got a bit unlucky with the touchdown variance. So I think, again, maybe that goes in his favor this game against Cleveland. I do have interest in him as the cheap play. And then below that, I'm not going to get to Carr. I'm just, that Tampa Bay defense, I don't really want to attack it, especially after what we saw with Green Bay's offense really struggling there. I'm not going to get to Jimmy G. Below this, I'm not going to get to Drew Lock. It's Burrow's the guy spending down. If I'm not spending down a quarterback, I'm spending up. And the guys I like, Russ Wilson, Kyler Murray, Rodgers, Watson, Matt Ryan's played for GPPs, Stafford, Herbert. Those are the guys I'm looking to. Let's move on to running back. I guess real quick, guys, we are currently at almost 100 viewers. If you guys enjoy the content, hit that like button. It does really help me out, guys. And again, it's all free content. Subscribe if you haven't already. We have free videos coming out every single day for main slates, showdown slates. I'll have a video up for the showdown slate Monday. Later tonight, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, enjoy the content, hit the like button. It's the last time I'll ask, but thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. All right, running back, let's do it. So Kamara's going to be really popular. And I think for cash games, you do get to him with no Michael Thomas, no Emmanuel Sanders. Carolina, I know they've been a little bit better defensively, but they still struggle against the run. So all this is kind of shaping up for Kamara to be a really nice play in cash games. Is he a must-play in GPPs? No, absolutely not, because there's so many good wide receivers on this slate in really good spots, like all the spot-up wide receivers. So if I was playing cash games, if you guys are playing cash games today, I think the running backs I would go with is Kamara, Jamal Williams, and Giovanni Bernard, right? You get the 2 punt running backs, you get the spend-up in Kamara. That's where I would go in cash. Really got to like the floor on Kamara. You know he's going to be popular. You also know the 2 cheap running backs are going to be popular. But in cash games, ownership doesn't matter, right? You just want to play the optimal plays. I think if you're just going for optimal, it's Kamara, and it's the 2 cheap backs, who we'll talk about more in a bit. For that reason alone, all these other running backs are going to be lower owned. So, all these guys are suited for GPPs for me. Zeke at 7-8. If you want to get off the really chalky Kamara, Zeke looks okay. He's game flow independent. I know he's fumbled the last couple of games, but I don't think his role is really going to diminish too much, right? The Cowboys just paid him a ton of money. Playing with Dalton, they might rely on Zeke even more, right? They dumped it down to him 8 times and 10 targets while playing from behind. So Zeke, I kind of like as a contrarian play here. Let's see. What about Latavius Murray? I'll talk about Latavius. I'm probably not going to do it just because I just like the other cheap running backs. But he's at least viable if you're making a lot of lineups. Derrick Henry at 7-5. I'm not going to do it. It's a tougher spot here against Pittsburgh. It's always scary to fade Derrick Henry. It is, because it seems like he has one or 2 games a year where he just completely breaks the slate. We kind of saw it already in 2 of the 6 games so far, where 30 against Minnesota and 43 against Houston. So sure, the upside is there. But it's just no real involvement in the passing game does worry me a bit. So it's kind of like how we think this game plays out, I guess. If you think the Titans are going to be playing from a lead, then it makes Henry a lot more viable. But my worry is that if they do fall behind, then maybe not phase him out, but phase him out a little bit, like maybe not as many carries. So that's always the worry with Derrick Henry. I'm not going to go there, but it is a scary fade. Again, we did get confirmation here, and Aaron Jones is inactive, so that's why I think Jamal Williams at the flat mid price is probably one of the top value plays of the day. Kareem Hunt at 6'8". He's had 2 really bad matchups here against Pittsburgh and the Colts with Nick Chubb out. This is finally a better spot here against Cincinnati. We know Cleveland's a run-first team. Don't be worried about the last game. Again, they fell behind big time. They lost 38-7, so I would not be super worried about that. I think this is a game Kareem Hunt could push for 20 to 25 touches. We know he's a good pass-rushing back, too, so I think he's a fine GBP play as well. Again, I think cash games, the lineup kind of builds itself with Kamara and the 2 cheap backs. So everyone else here, I don't know if I would do it in cash, but there's a lot of good plays here for GPPs. Like Connor always seems to go low owned. It's a good spot here. He is their bell cow back, like probably 20 touches for him. He's decent passage running back. They haven't been going to him as much recently, but he can still catch some passes. 6-7's a fair price. Let's see. Spending up and stuck with Jets at defense. Let's do it. That's what I'm doing too. I know Washington probably is your cash defense, right? So I've already kind of told you guys four cash game plays, right? The 3 running backs in Washington is probably what I would do. But yeah, I'm punting with the Jets and as well and hoping they don't kill me. It's really, really risky, but it allows me to jam in, the guys that I want to in my lineup. But yeah, back to running back here. Mike Davis, I kind of like at 6'6". I think he, now with the news of Aaron Jones out, is going to be lower owned just because, again, ownership is going to be Kamara and the 2 cheap running backs. So Mike Davis flies under the radar, but his floor is still high with no Christian McCaffrey. Only had 2 catches and 3 targets. Not super worried about that. The previous games, 9, 6, and 10 targets. So another guy that's kind of game flow independent. It doesn't matter if they're playing from ahead or behind. He will get his usage. He will get his touches. I think he's a nice play here in the mid-range. I think he does go forgotten about on the slate. Carson at 6'4" is, again, viable GPP play for me as well. He's been getting more involvement in the passing game, 3, 4, and 7 targets the last 4 games. This is a game that is projected to be pretty high scoring. And I think I would probably assume we get about 15 touches in the ground for Carson and maybe 3 or 4 through the air. The 6'4" price is fair. So I'm not overly excited about it, but I think it's fine if you land on him. Again, I'm not going to go out of my way to play Carson, though. Jacobs against Tampa Bay is a pass for me. Ronald Jones with Leonard Fournette back, I like as a GPP play as well. We don't really know what Fournette's role is going to be, and Ronald Jones has been playing super well. This is a good matchup here against the Raiders. And the price is nice here at 6.2. I like Ronald Jones a lot for GPPs. If you play him, you got his hope he continues to be the bell cow back. Now, sure, right, there always is that worry with Fournette eating into some of his carries, but it's hard to argue what he's done, right? He's got over 100 yards the last 3 games. He's involved in the passing game with 9, 5, and 2 targets the last 3 games. So I do like Ronald Jones a decent amount here as a GPP play. Probably not get to Robinson. Edwards-Helaire with Le'Veon. Did we get confirmation here on Le'Veon? Say it's slated to be available and is expected to have a role. Okay, I just want to confirm that. So I'm gonna do a wait and see approach for this Kansas City running back situation. Also, again, the snow. Yeah, sure, right. They maybe rely on the run game a little bit more here, but I don't want to do it on this slate, at least in the main slate. Gurley, I'm going to pass on. No real involvement in the pass game. I'm not getting to McKinnon either. I know he played well when Moser was out that last game, but just this matchup against New England, they still do have a couple other backs. I'm not going to do it. I get it if people go to him. Again, he's a good passenger back, but I'm not overly convinced that he's going to be the true bell cow back. Now, he was 3 or 4 games ago when Moser was out, but San Francisco does kind of like utilizing a bunch of backs. So I'm going to pass there. I'm not going to get to Singletary either. They should be playing from ahead, but Zach Moss is now available. DeAndre Swift is at least in play here in GPPs because, again, we got the news. He's up for an expanded role here. So what does that mean exactly? Well, we don't really know. He did have 14 carries for over 100 yards. It was good. It was really good in the passing game. 3 catches and 4 targets. Again, they have AP. They have Kerryon Johnson. Maybe they take Kerryon Johnson out of the running back rotation. Maybe it's just him and AP. So what is the expanded role really going to mean is more in question, but it's good that he is going to get more work. It's just, how much more is the question. So are you going to take the risk here? The matchup's good, right? The matchup's really good against Atlanta. So I like Swift for GPPs, but it doesn't make sense to go there in cash because the role is not like guaranteed. We just don't know exactly what the expanded role means. Yeah, David Johnson at 5'3" is fine against Green Bay. He's been getting a decent amount of work. The passing game role isn't as good because they have Duke Johnson, so that's always the concern. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do it. Not going to get to Philip Lindsay, obviously, with Melvin Gordon playing. Kelly's a pass for me at 5'1". Now, Justin Jackson, I think, will get some ownership. He was projected to be really popular, but then we got the news of Mixon out, making Gio really good play. Then we got the news of Aaron Jones out, making Jamal Williams really good play. So Justin Jackson, the ownership is going to drop. I still think he's playable here at this price, though, because he was the better of the two backs at last game. And looks like he's going to be more the pass-catching back. He had 5 catches and 6 targets, whereas Kelly not so much. So, and it's a good matchup, too, again, against the Jags. So I have interest in Justin Jackson. If you want to get off a really chalky Gio and Jamal Williams, you can look to Justin Jackson to pivot. But yeah, let's now talk about those two backs. The backs are going to be really, really popular here. Where is Giovanni Bernard? Yes, he's at 4-5. No Joe Mixon. He should be the guy that gets the majority of the work. He's a really good pass-catching back as well. And the 4.5K price, is this too cheap? So for cash games, yeah, you play Gio, right? Now, is he a must-play? No, because there is other value, right? You can look to Justin Jackson as a pivot if you want to go like a direct pivot at running back. If you're not playing Jamal Williams, you can obviously look to him as a pivot. And there's some cheap wide receiver plays, too, who we'll talk about. So he's not a must-play in GBPs. For cash games, though, I would go here. I would. I would play him, I would play Kamara, and I would play Jamal Williams. So let's talk about Jamal Williams now. He's at the flat min. Sure, they still have A.J. Dillon, who I think will get some work. But I think Jamal Williams is going to be the number one here. Maybe a 60-40, 70-30 split. It doesn't really matter just because, again, the matchup's great. He's a good pass-catching back we've seen, and he's going to be in for an expanded role. So, sure, A.J. Dillon, I think, does get some work, but Jamal Williams would be the guy for me for cash. Again, it's him. It's Giovanni Bernard, and it's Kamara. I can throw him in there if you guys want me to for like a cash game core. These are not contrarian plays. These are cash game plays. I'm not playing cash, but these are the 3 running backs I would play if I was playing a cash game setting. And then I probably would go the Washington defense too if if I was playing cash. So that's going to be really popular, but it's a safe way to go about it. Let's talk about wide receiver now. So wide receiver at the top, again, there are a ton of good plays here. For single entry guys like myself, this week is really, really hard because there's just so many good plays. It really does favor the guys, obviously, that can make a ton of lineups and go, stack a lot of these games up. But yeah, Hopkins at 8-2. Maybe isn't going to be super popular because he's got that Q tag. I'm not super worried about it. He practiced on Friday. He's been, questionable, I feel like, the last few weeks here. And we have a guy that is going to be right at Hopkins' price range in Davante Adams. That's going to be really popular, right? Davante Adams is going to be the chalk spend-up wide receiver today. So, is Davante Adams a must-play? No, he is not. And you can look to a pivot like a guy like Hopkins for lower ownership. Sure, did only have 2 catches the last game. I'm not worried about it. Cardinals are playing from ahead. They didn't necessarily have to air it out. Kyler only had 9 completions. So, I'm not super worried about only 2 catches there for Hopkins. He's still at 8 targets. Again, the matchup is amazing here against Seattle. So, I like him as a pivot off of a guy like Davante Adams. Now, Davante Adams, again, he's going to be popular. He looks like a good cash game play. He does. So, right, we know the ownership's going to be there. We know there's no Aaron Jones. And we know he's a target machine. And it's a great matchup. So, all these things are really pointing to Davante Adams to be a really, really good play here at this price. So, cash games, I think he does look like probably the best spend-up wide receiver. But you do not necessarily have to play him here in cash, right? I don't think he's a must-play in cash games because there's so many good plays, but he looks like a really, really good play and someone that, again, if I was making a cash game lineup, I probably would go Davante Adams as my spend-up wide receiver. But We do have some other good plays as well. Again, no Michael Thomas, no Sanders. We'll get to that in a sec. But the two Atlanta receivers with Ridley and Julio, at a very similar price here at 7-3 and 7-1. I don't really have a strong take on these guys. Both are going to get their work. I guess if you made me pick, I would go Ridley just because Julio had the bigger game last game, and also Julio's the guy that's been dealing with injuries. So I guess I would feel a little bit more comfortable with Ridley, but I think both look good. I think you can go both if you want to go the full game stack. Go like Matt Ryan, Ridley, Julio, and run it back with either like Galladay or Marvin Jones or Swift. Right? If you want to play that GPP build, I don't hate that idea. Obviously, that's always in play. The two Seattle receivers with Metcalf and Lockett look pretty good as well. I think Lockett's going to be more popular, and he's the guy I prefer for the discount. We kind of know where the targets are going in the Seattle offense. It's these two top guys with Lockett and Metcalf. So I like both in a game that's projected to be a shootout. I probably prefer Lockett for the discount, but that's not really a strong take. Let's see. Diggs at 7K, I'm not going to get to for the reason of I'm just not confident in the Jets offense. So, and this Bills offense, they run slow too. So I'm just worried that this game goes 20-3 in the third, fourth quarter, and then they're just running the ground game. So I'm not going to do Diggs or any of the Bills pieces in this offense. There's maybe a cheap receiver who I'll talk about that I think is at least in play, but spend ups, I feel more comfortable with the guys that are projected to be in shootout games. The Dallas receivers, probably not for me. They're all are going to be contrarian. Cooper, Lamb, Gallup, but I just feel more comfortable with the other receivers on the slate. Will Fuller is one of those guys at 6'8". The targets have been there for him 7, 8, and 11, so he's averaging about 10 targets a game. Again, Houston has been playing from behind, it feels like, every single time. Will Fuller's got the big play upside. He's the guy they look to in the red zone. 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Yeah, so I do like Fuller here. You can definitely pair him with Watson. Galladay at 6'7". Again, I just feel like the Detroit offense is going to break out in this game against Atlanta. The passing attack, I think. So sure, only 7, 8, and 6 targets, but it's kind of a gut feeling here. I think one of Galladay or Marvin Jones Jr. is going to have an amazing day here against this Atlanta defense. Sure, you can look to DeAndre Swift again if you want to go that route, but I do like the passing attack here for Detroit in Galladay, in Marvin Jones we'll talk about. I don't think Galladay's going to be super popular either, just because there's so many good plays here at the top. So I think he maybe flies a bit under the radar. Marvin Jones Jr. is going to be super low on because he's been terrible last 3 games, but he's still running and basically running a ton of routes and basically playing the entire game. So we'll talk about Marvin Jones in a sec here. Again, the Dallas receivers, I'm not going to get to. Hill's fine in GPPs, but I'm not pulling the trigger on this Kansas City offense with the snow in that game. Godwin and Mike Evans look decent here. Now, I probably would prefer Ronald Jones at a similar price, but Godwin and Evans, they do seem a little bit underpriced. And with them being kind of like new additions to the main slate, obviously, I just think they're going to be a little bit lower owned. So I think both are fine here. And I don't think they're going to be super, super popular. But the matchup's good here against this Raiders team. So Godwin and Mike Evans are perfectly fine. I'm not going to get to A.J. Brown. Keenan Allen at 6'2" is another guy that's going to be really popular. I think he also would be someone that I would probably look to in cash games. So I'm kind of building out a cash game lineup for you guys if you want to play it. Again, that's probably the farthest I'll go, but that looks like the cash bill that I would start with. Then you have 5.6K remaining with a quarterback, wide receiver, and a tight end to go. So yeah, Keenan Allen is just a guy that's going to get, sure, right, he had the back injury. That's obviously a little bit worrisome, but when he's healthy, he's just a guy that's going to get a ton of targets, and the matchup's great. The price is just too cheap here at 6'2". So I do like Keenan Allen. I like him a good amount here at his price. Let's see. Other options at wide receivers. Let's go back down. Again, we have no Crowder. I'll talk about actually potential punt play in Braxton Berrios, who actually played really well in the 2 games that Crowder missed. Berrios played in the slot and it was pretty solid, so I'll talk about him in a sec. The 2 Carolina receivers are going to be a little bit more contrarian with Robbie Anderson and G.J. Moore. Anderson's been better. He's at a fair price. fine if you want to go there. I'm fine DJ Moore. They're not guys I'm overly excited about. Terry McLaurin, I think, will be pretty popular here at this price. The downside there is just the bad quarterback play, but matchup's great. He's a guy getting a ton of targets. I think he will be somewhat popular. So McLaurin's a guy that I think you can definitely look to in both formats here. Claypool with Deontay Johnson back, I'm not going to do it. I prefer Deontay Johnson. Now, sure, right, there is obviously word with Johnson. He's been injured, it feels like, almost every single game. But the 2 games Johnson was healthy, he played really, really well. So I'll talk about Deontay Johnson. I do like him quite a bit for value. There is some risk because of the injuries, but Deontay Johnson's the Pittsburgh receiver for me if I was going to target someone in this game. Other options, yeah, Juju, the price is coming down. I don't know if it's coming down enough. Now, the Cincinnati receivers, with Boyd, Higgins, and A.J. Green, are all playable here. I really do. I think Boyd is probably the safest playing out of the slot. He's been getting a lot of targets, and again, we know Joe Burrow does like targeting the slot receiver. So, yeah, Boyd is probably the safest option, but Higgins has been playing well. A.J. Green had a big game the last game. He's pretty cheap. So, all 3 of these Cincinnati receivers, I think, are fine. And again, Joe Burrow would be the spend-down quarterback I would look to. Cooks is viable. He's had 2 really, really good weeks. 12 and 9 targets. And the matchup, they probably will be putting from behind here against Green Bay. So I'm okay with Cooks. I do feel a little bit more comfortable with Fuller, but Cooks, it's been really, really good last couple games here. This next tier, we know John Brown and no Manuel Sanders. There's not a lot I like, to be honest. Like, I'm not going to get to any of these guys. Kirk is playable at 4-9, but just the targets, right? Only 4, 5, 7, 3 targets. Did have 2 catches. Did have 86 yards, did have 2 touchdowns on his 2 catches, but it just, the targets aren't amazing for him. So that's the worry with me and Kirk. I think he's fine if you get to him, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play Christian Kirk today. Below this, yeah, Mike Williams, if you want to get off a chalky Keenan Allen for GPPs, I'm okay with it, right? He's a big play upside guy. Another guy that's always seemed to be dealing with a hamstring injury, but again, he got the big play upside. We saw it that last game. He had over 100 yards, and the matchup's good. So he's more suited for GPPs for me. Other options, we still do have no Sammy Watkins. So talk about Demarcus Robinson as at least a viable cheap play, but you got to feel a little bit more comfortable with the other wide receiver, or the other cheap running backs, I should say. Tim Patrick with the snow and with Hamler coming back, I'm not going to do that. Hardman, the snaps didn't go up as much as I expected. He was a chalk bust in that 2-game slate. It was just a disappointing. I thought he would get more work. He did not. So can't go to Hardman there. Obviously, again, the weather is a factor as well. Now, Marvin Jones Jr., right? He's the guy I mentioned. He's not going to be popular. He's been not good. He's not. But this is just a spot where I feel like Marvin Jones Jr. can have a nice day for his price. We're getting him the cheapest that we've gotten him in a long time at 4.4K. And again, the matchup's good. It's not like the snaps are going down. Like, he's still playing basically the entire game and running a ton of routes. So I have interest in Marvin Jones Jr. Now, would I go there in cash? No. I don't think I would go there in cash because of the recent play. But I do like him a good amount here for GPPs in a bounce back spot. A.J. Green's another cheap option I think is in play here at 4.3. Was healthy, well, looked like finally, and had 8 catches, 11 targets. So that is good to see. Sure, there's worry with A.J. Green, right? The guy, he's been dealing with injuries, feels like, last 3 or 4 years. So that is a concern. But the price point is very fair. And again, Cleveland has struggled to defend the pass, so I do like, I like me some A.J. Green here. Let's see, someone said windy San Diego. Is the weather going to be bad there in San Diego? I guess I didn't really look into that too much. But A.J. Green, I do like for cheap. Cobb and Fitzgerald are basically the same players, right? They're old, playing the slot. They don't have a whole lot of upside. Wouldn't go there for GPPs. Deontay Johnson at 4.2. He's the Pittsburgh receiver I like the most because the 2 games he was healthy. 6 catches on 10 targets, 8 catches on 13 targets. These last couple games, he got injured against Houston. He got injured against Philly. So, yeah, there is risk, right? There's risk. He just aggravates one of his injuries. He's dealing with a back right now. But 4.2K, and this match against Tennessee is good. So I like Deontay Johnson's a cheap play. Again, know the risk. There is some risk with him with the injuries, but I do like the pricing him a good amount. MVS is a viable punt here. He's the number 2 receiver for Green Bay. And just talk about game theory, right? We know Davante Adams is going to be really popular. We know Jamal Williams is going to be really popular. So if you want to pivot off one of those guys, like you can look to a guy like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, right? He is their number 2 receiver. Obviously not as much upside as DAVANTE. Obviously not as good of a floor as Jamal Williams, but he's a viable play here. And if you want to get off either of those guys for really high ownership, you can look to MVS as a pivot. Now, Tre'Quan Smith at 4K is kind of the de facto number 1 wide receiver right now for the Saints. There's no Sanders. There's no Michael Thomas still. So let's talk about New Orleans really quick here at wide receiver. And Smith probably is the number 1 receiver. We have Deontay Harris and Callaway, I think, are viable punts here at the flat min price. Now, who's going to fit in for the number 2? Who's going to fill in for the number 3? I don't really have a strong take, but both are fine punt options at the flat min with Harris and Callaway. And obviously, Smith is a safe guy, right? He's the guy that has had a role in this offense, basically the entire season. So Tre'Quan Smith is the guy that I feel you can obviously feel the most comfortable with, but Harris and Callaway are viable punts at the flat min for GPPs. And then back down to wide receiver. Let's see. Any other guys I wanted to talk about? Yeah, like Harry and Bird are still playing a good amount of the game, but just that game in general, I don't really like San Francisco and New England. Yeah, Gabriel Davis. So he's the one guy I would consider for Buffalo because that last game against Tennessee when John Brown is out, he played the entire game. Played 100%. The entire game. He's at 3.6. So we have a guy like Josh Allen who's at 7.7. We have Diggs at 7K. They have to do a good amount to pay off their salaries. Gabriel Davis, he doesn't have to do a lot. He has to get three or four catches. So, we know he's going to be out there for a majority, if not the whole game. So Gabriel Davis would be the guy in this game that I would consider on the Buffalo side. Yeah, Hamler playing on the slot in that game with the snow, probably not for me. Demarcus Robinson is a punt wide receiver. He did play a majority of the game with no Sammy Watkins, but again, this snow, I don't really feel good about it, so probably not going to do it. Now, Braxton Berrios is the guy for the Jets that I think looks okay here. It was, I think, game 2 and game 3 when Crowder was out. He had, 6 catches and 8 targets, 4 catches and 4 targets. So he will play out of the slot. He's at almost min price. I wouldn't go there in cash, but I think he's a guy you can consider for GPPs as a cheap play. I think that's probably it for me. I don't think I would consider anyone else here. So let's see. Let's finish up with tight end and defense, and then we can get to some questions. Tight end. So Kittle, Kelsey, Waller. All are guys that are going to get a lot of work, right? They're going to get a lot of targets. It's just all three are not in necessarily the best spots here. We have Kittle against New England. We have Kelsey against Denver in the snow. And we have Waller against Tampa Bay. So all three are in play, but all three are not in the best matchups. If you want to spend up on tight end, I'm fine with it, but it's not the direction that I'm going. Hawkinson feels a little bit pricey at 5K. I probably wouldn't do it. Again, Font I'm not going to get to. Juju Smith's in a tough matchup, but he's a guy that gets a good amount of targets. They looked him in the red zone. I think he's fine. The two plays in the mid-range that I kind of like are Hunter Henry and Hayden Hurst. Henry is a guy I think will be more popular at 4-5. The targets have been there for him. Right? We know Keenan Allen's going to be popular. I think Justin Jackson will get some ownership. So Hunter Henry is a guy that I do kind of like here at this price, kind of in the mid-range, I guess, for tight end. Hayden Hurst as well. They even said they want to give him more work. He hasn't been amazing, but he's still running a lot of routes, and the targets have been okay for him. 6.64 targets. It's coach talk, but they said they want to get him more involved, so maybe they look his way a little bit more. I think Hurst is a fine option there at that price as well, and a good matchup. Jared Cook is even okay here too, at 4.3. Again, we have the two top receivers out, so maybe they do rely on Jared Cook a little bit more. He hasn't done a ton, but I think he's at least playable as well. So those are the three guys kind of in the mid-range for me. Fellas at 4.1 let's see, Atkins is already to get rolled out. So, he did have 6 catches and 7 targets last game. Another guy that I guess I'm okay with because of the matchup. So, yeah, there's some cheaper guys here with those options that I mentioned. Now, Austin Hooper's out. Some people have asked me about Njoku, but I got news that it's going to be Harrison Bryant is slated to start. So that makes Njoku a lot riskier. If you want to punt with Harrison Bryant at the flat min, I'm not opposed to it. Because again, at this price, he does not have to do a lot to get you there, right? He has to get a couple catches. So I'm fine with Harrison Bryant. If you want to punt the position, I feel more comfortable with him than Njoku, just because Bryant is starting at tight end. But back to other tight ends here. So, yeah, Ebron at 4K. It's a good matchup. He's getting a decent amount of targets. I think he's another guy that I'm fine with. I'm not overly excited about, but playable. SCHULTZ at 3.9. He's still getting a decent amount of targets for Dallas. 6'8", 5 and 3. It's not bad for a guy under 4K. A viable play as well. Logan Thomas at 3.5. I told you guys I was playing him last week. It wasn't like he was amazing, but he had 3 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown. I'm going back there again this week just because he is still playing a majority of the game. The matchup's good, and he's running a lot of routes. 7.44 targets is not bad. So I'm going back there. I know it's a risky play. He's not going to be popular. He's a guy that's going to be probably 1 to 2% owned. But I just feel like a breakout game is possible here for Thomas because the workload is there. The routes have been there. The matchup's good. So if you want to follow my lead, I am going Logan Thomas at tight end. Do I feel good about that? No. And there's a lot of good tight end, other good tight end plays, right? So like for cash, if I was playing cash, maybe I'd go with Henry at 4 or 5. But I'm punting with Thomas. I'm hoping he can have a breakout game here in a good spot. I know he's been a letdown for some people when he was chalky in previous weeks, but yeah, I'm always open with you guys. That's the direction that I am going for my GPP lineup. Other tight end guys in play for me. Again, Njoku, I'm not going to get to him because we have news that Bryant's going to start. The last guy I will mention here is O'Shaughnessy with no Tyler Eifert. He's the starting tight end. He's at 2.6. He's playable at least, right? If you're punting tight end, these guys are this cheap. They do not have to do a lot to get you there, right? And the punt plays, the 3 punt plays I mentioned last week, were all pretty solid, right? It was Irv Smith, it was Burton, and it was Logan Thomas. So, yeah, tight end is, if you want to punt it, there are some punt options you can go to. But that really wraps it up for me for tight end. So let's finish up with defense. Again, I think the chalk defense is Washington. Probably the defense I would go with in a cash game setting. But you can look to the Bills. The Jets obviously have really, really struggled. They got held to a shutout the last game. Now you're going to have to pay a premium for the Bills at 4.7. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot to get them in there. And defense is super high variance, so you can at least consider them. Again, the Chiefs are expensive too, and a game with the snow. Denver has struggled offensively. You can get to them, but you do have to sacrifice a lot to get those top defenses into your lineup. Mid-range defenses, I think the Browns are okay here at 2.8 against a rookie quarterback. I know some people have talked about them. Again, Washington is probably the defense that you go to in cash. And if you want to follow my lead and play it really, really risky, you can go to the Jets here against the Bills at the flat min, 2K. I'm just hoping they don't kill me. I'm just hoping they give me a couple points. That's all I need at that price. It allows me to fit in the guys I want into my lineup. So I'm going that route. But yeah, safe route, Washington. And this is probably like a safe build for cash games to start with. You have, 3 players remaining. It's going to be, this is the lineup I would probably start with for cash game settings. So that being Kamara, the 2 cheap running backs in Gio and Jamal Williams, and then 2 chalky wide receivers with DAVANTE Adams in a great matchup, Keenan Allen in a great matchup, and Washington being the most popular defense, I think, for this week. So that about wraps it up for the player-by-player breakdown. We have 15 minutes until lock, so let's get into it. Yeah, I guess I didn't mention Keenan Allen. Let's see. Or not Keenan Allen. Kenyon Drake at running back. He's at 4.8. I know someone mentioned him in chat. He had a big week last week. He's at least in play here. He's a pivot off of like a chalky Gio, a chalky Jamal Williams. If you want to get off those chalk cheap plays, you could look to a guy like Drake. He will get a good amount of work on the ground, but no real involvement in the passing game. So it's all about how you think this game plays out, I guess. Let's see, DK or Julio. DK Metcalf or Julio. For me, it's probably Julio, but yeah, it's close. Giovanni Bernard or Kenyon Drake in GPP? That's a tricky one because Gio's obviously going to be a lot more popular. I still think I go Gio for the owner, even though he's going to be higher owned. I just feel more comfortable about it because of the passing work. Yeah, the Jets are terrible. Yeah, I know the Jets are terrible. I know. And it's just a really risky play, but it allows me to get the guys that I want into my lineup. So, and defense is such a high variance position. So yeah, I'm taking the shot. It's not something I'm comfortable with at all. Safety again. Play Washington for safety. You like Hunt today, DK? I do think Hunt's a nice play at his price. He's going to be under the radar just because we're going to have the chalk running back plays with the guys that are in this lineup right now. But he's had back-to-back really tough matchups. This is a better spot. I think he has upside to go for 20 to 25 touches. So yeah, do you think Carolina, New Orleans is a nice GPP stack? Not a lot of people are going to do it. So yeah, like I'm okay with that, right? You can run something like Kamara, one of the cheap target receivers, and run it back with like Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore or even Mike Davis, right? So there is ways you can go about it, I guess. So yeah, I think that's a nice contrarian stack because not a lot of people are going to stack Carolina and New Orleans, in my opinion. Thanks to of course. I'm going to roll Bridgewater and GPP. Yeah, so you're going Bridgewater, so you're probably going to pair him obviously with one of those receivers in Anderson or Moore. You can look to run it back like Kamara. I'm okay with that little stack. Let's see. I'm wrong with Allen, Zeke, Jamal, Diggs, Traquan Smith, Galladay, Harrison, Bryant, Hunt, and Steelers D. Only the 7 early games. So, okay, you're going to the Bills. Again, I kind of laid out why I'm not overly excited about the Bills because I'm not confident in the Jets at all scoring. But if the Jets can get it going a bit, we've seen that Buffalo offense is pretty dynamic. The first 4 or 5 games of the season, Allen and Diggs were insane. Let's see. Early only GPP. Let's see. You got Rodgers, Kamara, Jamal Williams, Davante Adams, Higgins, Ridley, Logan Thomas, Bernard, Washington. I like that a lot. Claypool or Deontay Johnson. Yeah, so for me, I'm going to take the discount Deontay Johnson. I know Claypool's been playing really well, but it's just the discount, right? It's about a $1,500 difference. There is some risk with Deontay Johnson as injuries, but yeah, I like the discount there with Deontay. Stafford, a quarterback, is, I think, more suited for GPPs. But I kind of do like Galladay. Again, I mentioned Galladay and Marvin Jones. I think at least one of those guys will have a breakout game here against Atlanta. It's a great matchup. It's kind of more of a gut feeling, but yeah, I think one of those receivers do break out here. Let's see. Hey, DK, cash build is Kyler, Gio, Kamara, Keenan Allen, McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Zeke, and Jared Cook. I think that's solid. Now you are fading. You're fading Jamal Williams. It's risky. It is. So maybe you go Jamal Williams instead of Zeke and then move up on either McLaurin or Deontay Johnson. But I guess you are getting a little bit different. It's just Jamal Williams is a really tough fade, in my opinion. I guess the way that he doesn't get there, Jamal Williams, is maybe they incorporate A.J. Dillon more than people think, and maybe it's like a 50-50 split. But still, he's at a flat mid, so it's a hard fade for Jamal Williams in cash. Let's see, Metcalf, Hopkins, or Adams in cash. Again, for cash, it probably is Davante Adams. I think he will be the most popular spend-up wide receiver with now no Aaron Jones. But it's a tough call. It's tough, right? I like a lot of spend-up wide receivers. I feel so risky fading Derrick Henry. Well, you shouldn't in cash because no one's going to play him in cash. It's always a scary fade in GPPs, but you got to look at the slate in general, right? There's so many good wide receiver plays. There's a lot of good spend-up plays. So, yeah, it's always a scary fade, but he's not going to be super popular. Rodgers or Murray for cash. For me, it's Kyler. I like the floor of the running game a little bit more with him. Adams will be the highest owned. Yeah, I agree. I think Adams will be the highest owned wide receiver. Galladay, McLaurin, Hopkins, or Galladay, Allen, and Adams. So it's McLaurin and Hopkins versus Allen and Adams in cash. I think it's Allen, and Adams for me. Julio or Ridley. Again, I don't have a strong take. It's going to be Ridley, but it's close. Do you like Lockett? Love him to bounce back. He's a lock. I see what you did there. I think Lockett's a pretty nice play. I do prefer him for the discount DK Metcalf. Now, Lockett's going to be more popular than DK Metcalf, but both are at fair enough prices. Both are in a game that's projected to be a shootout. So, and the price, again, looks good for Lockett. The Seattle-Arizona game is in play even though it's a late game. Yeah. What I'm worried about with Seattle-Arizona is I think the ownership is going to be up a bit just because people like having a late-night hammer, right? It's kind of like NBA too, right? Those 10:30 games. You always kind of want like one player in that game because you want someone in the late-night hammer. And I think people are going to kind of think that way for this too. So I think the ownership will be a little bit up. That's the only concern with that late game. Boyd or Cooks, that's a close one. That is. I guess it would really depend on the rest of your lineup and if you're playing cash or GPP. I think it's Boyd for cash. You can look to Cooks and GPP. Like GPP, it's almost a coin flip there. But if you're playing a cash game setting, it's probably Boyd. I've got Kyler, Gio, Jamal Williams, Keenan, Hopkins, Julio, Harrison Bryant, Kamara, and Washington defense. Anything you would change? Okay, so you got the running backs. You have Keenan, Hopkins, and Julio. That looks good. You're punting with Harrison Bryant. No, I think that looks really good. I think that's a really, really good cash game lineup and something that, that might be the lineup that I would go with in cash. Like that might have been my build if I played cash games. I like that a lot. So you got the floor with Hopkins, with Julio, with Keenan Allen. The only play is risk there, obviously, is Harrison Bryant, but you don't need him to do a whole lot. So I like the lineup a lot, Tommy. Kyler, Gio, Kamara, Adams, Deontay, Harris, McLaurin, Logan Thomas, Hopkins, and the Jets D. You're playing Jets D too with me. It's a huge, huge risk. It is. But it allows me to get what I want in there. So, yeah, I'm okay with that. Let's see. How about this for GPP? Okay, so you're going Herbert, Kamara, Bernard, Herbert, Allen, Lockett, Beasley, Logan Thomas, Elliott, and the Jets D. Are you going Cole Beasley? Yeah. What's Cole Beasley's price at? He's at 4.9. I'm not super excited about Beasley, but everything else looks okay there. Boyd or Higgins? It's Boyd, but it's close. It's not really a strong take there for me. Favorite mid 5K receivers on DK GPP. Mid 5K. Okay, so this is a range I'm not overly excited about, but probably it's going to be McLaurin, who is at 5'8", if you consider him in the mid. I'd say McLaurin and one of those Cincinnati receivers with Boyd or Higgins. So, yeah, that's probably it for me. I think the highest upside is a guy like McLaurin. Giovanni or Jamal Williams. I'll go Jamal Williams. I like the matchup a little bit better if you made me pick, but that's something that I would play both for a cash game setting. Washington D, Ridley, or Cleveland D, Julio. Washington D and Ridley for me. Would you take Galladay over Lockett and run it back with 2? What do you mean by 2? But would I take Galladay over Lockett? Again, that's a tough one for me because I'm personally playing both of those guys. So, Lockett's going to be more popular. If you're going for the safe play, maybe Lockett, but I do like Galladay here. Are you against a 4-player stack with running back with 2? So 4-2 stack. So I guess I'd have to know what the stack is. Like which team are you stacking 4 with? Jeff Smith or Denzel Mims? Yeah, I didn't talk about either because I probably wouldn't do either. Like Mims, we haven't seen anything from him yet. The rookie versus Jeff Smith, who's had a role. Like for me, I would probably just go Berrios here because I feel comfortable with his role in the slot. I don't know, Perriman's going to play a good amount on the outside. I think Berrios is the guy in the slot. It's Smith or Wims on the other side. I probably wouldn't do it. Free flow with the $5 super chat. Thank you, man. Let's see. Rodgers, Giovanni Bernard, Jamal Williams, Davante Adams, Julio, Traquan Smith, Juju Smith, Kamara, Flex, Brown C. Anything you would change in the $3,300 early only? Let's see. So you do have some riskier plays. I guess not really risky, but there is a couple. Like you're playing a lot of the chalk, which is actually pretty good. You're getting different in a few spots, right? Like Traquan Smith, maybe not going to be super popular. Juju Smith is a guy that I think flies under the radar, but everything else looks up. So yeah, I don't think I would necessarily change anything. You are playing a lot of the high floor guys, and then getting a different in a couple spots, which is usually the approach that I take for GPPs, right? I like playing a decent amount of, the chalk for single entry and then getting different in a couple spots. So, would I personally change anything? I mean, I'm not overly excited about Juju Smith, but he's the guy for you to get different, and he's the guy that, They will target, like they like going to Juju Smith, they like going to him in the red zone. So I'm good with that. I don't think like you have to change anything there. Do you like Tre'Quan Smith? I think he's a nice play as a cheap option. He's the de facto #1 wide receiver. He's the guy I feel the most comfortable with. You can look to Callaway Harris to get a little bit different, the flat min. But yeah, Tre'Quan Smith is the guy I feel the most comfortable with. Stacking Stafford, okay, Swift. You're stacking Stafford with Swift, Kenny Golladay, Hawkinson, running back Julio and Ridley. So you really, really need that. It's not like that's out of play, but you really do need that game to pop off, like big time. So am I against it? No, but it's a risk. It's super risky, right? You need like a 42-35 game there or something. Kyler, Henry, Swift, Terry McLaurin, Claypool, Debo, Kraft, Kamara, cash game lineup. Probably wouldn't do that. Again, if you're playing cash, I would start with a majority of these guys. Like I would go with the 3 running backs in Kamara, Gio, and Williams. Probably look to get into one of either DAVANTE or Keenan Allen. So, yeah, I probably wouldn't go that lineup in cash. Let's see, how does this look? You have Bridgewater, Kamara, Hunt, Hill, Robbie, Terry, Robbie Anderson, okay, Juju, Williams, Washington, D. So it's a bit contrarian, right? Because Bridgewater's not a guy that's going to be super popular, but Robbie Anderson's playing really well. You're playing a lower-owned, well, I'm guessing that's Tyreek Hill, right? But the price does make him playable. He's got the big upside. You know, my worry obviously is just the weather there. You're playing Juju as well. I'm fine with Juju. Again, I think he is a little bit more contrarian because of the matchup. You know, Pittsburgh's been good defensively, but you know, Juju Smith is a guy that, you know, again, he got injured the last game, but previous games, like, he's getting a good amount of work, right? 7, 5, 8, 7 targets. He's a guy that has had, 5 touchdowns in the previous 4 games besides the game he got injured, so I think that's fine. Let's see. Aiden, Harris, or Callaway for 3K. I don't have a strong lean. Probably one of those Saints receivers, so give me Callaway, I guess. Okay, thanks a lot for your info and all the time. Of course, man. Hope you do well in the $33 tournament. I'm rooting for you, man. So I'm rooting for some Juju Smith for you. Callaway, let's see. Thoughts on Nelson Aguilar? Not for me. 6.3K wide receiver. Let's see. 6.3K. I think it's Mike Evans for me. I know he hasn't been amazing with Godwin. Hey, Dake, you made that switch to Kyler, Williams, Bernard, Adams, Allen, McLaurin, Cook, Kamara. I like that. A.J. Brown or Robbie Anderson for around 6,800, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, A.J. Brown he has been playing really well. It's a fair enough price point. Like I don't hate A.J. Brown. It's just, you know, you can't play everyone, I guess. My boy Richard Rodgers went off. Yeah, he played. My showdown lineup did really well. Now, I only played the big $10 tournament. That was it. But I finished in, the top 5,000, I think. 6.4K Tyreek. Which Browns tight end in cash? For me, it's... where is he? It's Harrison Bryant. He's starting. Sure, maybe it'll be an even 50-50 split. He's also cheaper, though, and it's not like he's kind of come out of nowhere. He's still getting some targets, right? 2, 4, 1, and 2 targets. So he's shown that he can catch some passes. It's Harrison Bryant for me. Thanks, man. Of course. Thanks to you. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, good luck. Oh, we are at lock now, guys. That kind of flew up. Let's see. Flew up on me today. So, let's go over some ownership when it comes out. And then I can get out of here. Excited to go watch these games, watch some Red Zone, and chill. And let me know how you guys do. If you guys win big, let me know on Twitter. So, let's see. Yeah, I'll have a video up, too, for the Showdown slate tomorrow. I'll have that up later today. Who's the game tomorrow even? I haven't even looked at that yet, actually. I had to bring it up. So Monday night game is, Bears-Rams. Yeah, that'll be okay. And you see, of course, Cole or Chark. And neither Jags receiver I'm overly excited about against the Chargers. Where are their prices at? Chark's at 5.5, Cole's at 4.7. Give me a Chark for a little bit more. I faded Njoku, watch him go off now. Njoku is a guy that he was at 3K, right? It's a tough call with those Browns tight ends, right? Because we got the news that Bryant was going to start. I still think Njoku will get a decent amount of work, but you don't need a whole lot from either Njoku or Harrison Bryant there. I will give another minute or so. Hopefully this ownership comes up. If not, I'm going to get out of here. Let's see. I do appreciate you guys coming to check out the live stream. I think we got close to 200 live viewers, so that's always nice for NFL. Good news too, NBA guys. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. I think we have the regular season starting a couple days before Christmas. I think it's the 22nd, so a little under 2 months now until we get NBA. Super excited about that. All right, ownership is not loading in, so. How can you check for ownership? So, I just go to my lineup, obviously, and then look at the ownership, and then I check on other people's lineups. I think you can download it, export it to Excel and see the ownership for everyone. I think there is some websites too that do that as well. Hoping Hopkins plays tonight. Hopkins is going to play. I'm not really worried about him resting because he was questionable the last couple of games and then came and played. All right. Well, ownership's not going to load, so. Good luck today, everyone. I hope you guys have a good Sunday. I hope you guys win some money. And I'll be back Monday for video as well as live stream. So good luck, and I will see you guys all later.